When you compile the procedure, and we will shortly see a demo, the compiler may throw you errors or warnings. The discussion about errors and warnings is applicable to procedures as well as other program units like functions and packages, which we will talk about later. Errors are, say, for situations when you have misspelled the table name, and so obviously the compiler cannot find it and will complain. Or if you have syntax errors which the compiler will catch for you to correct. The error conditions are always enabled when you compile the code, and your code will not be marked as valid and executable until you fix them. For instance, when I misspell the employee table name in my procedure, the compiler comes back with an error in C++ as warning, procedure created with compilation errors. In SQL Developer, it will report it as errors, check compiler log, and in the log view it will display the error. I can type show errors in SQL Plus or SQL Developer and it will show me the errors. Here it tells me that at line 4, column 12, the table or view I have mentioned in my code does not exist. Starting with Oracle version 10G, Oracle Compiler can also give you warnings. These are conditions which are not errors, but conditions in code which may lead to incorrect results or result in slower performance or logic which seems wrong. The warnings start with the PLW keyword, for instance, PLW-06002, which stands for unreachable code. The severe category is the category of conditions which might lead to incorrect results. For instance, not explicitly stating the auth_id clause for the procedure. We will talk about auth_id clauses later when we talk about roles and privs for stored program units, but briefly, it states the permission set under which the program is going to run, either the permission set of the definer of the procedure or the permission set of the executor of the procedure, and it can make a whole lot of difference to the final result. Then, there is a performance category which points to conditions in code which might lead to slower performance like unnecessary use of variables, etc. Finally is the informational category which gives warnings for conditions like unreachable code where, for example in the exception block, you have some code after the raise statement. The raise statement will immediately transfer control to the calling client and the code after it will never get called. So the compiler indicates that to us with the unreachable code warning. The warnings can be set at different levels, like enable and disable, which are self-explanatory, or they can be set to error, where we are telling the compiler to treat the warning as an error condition. The procedure which is compiled with warnings can still be executed. However, a procedure which is compiled with errors cannot be executed as the compiler marks it as invalid. In the development mode, I always set all the warnings to enable, as it helps me catch for these situations early on. The compiler helps in looking out for situations which can slow my code or lead to incorrect results, which is a great help. I would highly encourage you to also do so. Let us now see how we can enable these. There are several ways you can set warnings. Oracle gives you fine-grained control in that you can set each category for the warning at a different level, and you can do it just for your session, or it can be set for the entire system. The first way of doing it is using the alter session or alter system command. For example, here we have set the PL/SQL warnings to be enabled for the session for all categories using enable all. Similarly, using alter session set PL/SQL warnings disable all, we can disable them all. We can give them individual settings using the example syntax as shown. Here, for the session, we enable the performance category, enable the severe category, and disable the informational category. We can just specify them at the procedure level, for instance with the alter procedure compile command specifying the PL/SQL warnings for the different categories. Here we compile the procedure, setting warnings to enable state for performance, error for severe category, and even though code 06002 is informational warning for unreachable code, we can tell the compiler to treat it as an error. This shows the fine-grained control we have to specify these at different levels. The reuse settings clause is optional, and it tells the compiler that for the settings not specified, for example here we have not specified the level for informational category to use the setting from the last time it was compiled. If there was no setting specified the last time also, then it uses the current session settings. If there are warnings, the compiler will come back with procedure created with compilational warnings. You can type show errors command to see the warnings in SQL+. In SQL Developer, the compiler log will show the warnings. DBMS warning is another package through which you can set these settings and get the current settings for the session. This package has many procedures, but we will take a look at a couple of them which I think you will be using most often. We have the procedure add warning setting cat, which takes in 3 parameters, the first being the warning category, which can be informational, severe, and error, or all for all of them. The second parameter is to specify the warning value as in enable, disable, or error, and the third parameter scope takes in session or system. In this code snippet, we have shown the use of DBMS warning to add the warning setting, for instance, informational to be disabled for the session and enabled for the severe and performance category. And of course, using all, we can set it for all of them. We can display the current setting calling the DBMS warning get warning setting string function from dual. Dual is a sort of dummy table with a single record used for selecting when you are not actually interested in the data, but instead want the results of some system function in a select statement.